Oh, it's Tuesday night. And I just decided I was going to have a little cup of tea before I went to bed. It was a long day today. And I didn't even... There's some ant in my teacups. What is that smell? Well, it's not that. I don't know what it is. I think I live in a house where there's like yick around here. Good to see you. Well, it's good to be seen. It's good to be seen. Looking forward to seeing you next week. I'm excited too. I have got over 200 folks coming to Edenton in about a week, and that's going to be really fun. Yeah, a lot to do between now and then. I got going to see my big boys this weekend, and then bringing them home for a couple days, and taking one to see Chapel Hill, and well, actually, I'm taking them both because I'm gonna go. I might as well take whoever's around, and anyway, so that'll be good. Amos had a good day. You're whispering. Well, I've just gotten Amos to sleep and my 14-year-old to bed, which is very difficult to do because she's very eavesdroppy. Shooting at Morgan State University right now. Oh, gosh. So I've never been one to shy away from conversations. And when I started this blog, or whatever it's called, my goal was, I mean, if you look at my old bio, it was to be truthful and tell my truth. And I'm not necessarily good at it, but if I filter out what I talk about, then I'm not really doing what I promised, not y'all, but promised myself, you know, it's really important to me to be open and honest. And I don't know why, but I feel such a calling to do that. And I don't use the word calling lightly. I think my relationship with God is a complicated one. You know, I used to write to him in my journal, like every night I'd write, "Dear God." And I'm going to just turn off the comments so I don't get distracted. And anyway, I lost this brother to cancer, which I might seem to talk about a lot, but it really changed the trajectory of my life, you know, and I didn't talk about it. I just kept my mouth shut and tried to guard my heart, and I didn't tell how I was feeling or how devastated I was, so many things. And it wasn't until Amos came along that I realized, I was in a bad way because I had spent so much time hiding and pretending that I didn't have these feelings. And boy, I was drowning in them. Does this have caffeine in it? Probably more of that tea. I'll drink this tea. Anyway. So when that happened, that was really the change. With Amos happened, I was like, what am I going to do? I have all these feelings with this little person that I adore. And I didn't get the child I ordered. And suddenly I was grieving, and I was thinking, well, how can I be grieving? Because this is cancer. I didn't know you could grieve for anything other than death. And I learned with Amos that you can. And there might be some people that say, well, you shouldn't, grieve autism or this or that or the other. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't. Does it mean I don't love Amos or would trade him for some other little kid? No. He's mine. And like my son Thomas said when he was about 10 years old, Amos's age now, when he was crying one day, Thomas, who's about to be 18, because Amos was going to a special needs classroom. And I remember he said, why can't he just be like everybody else? And I said, I know, I get it. I get it. I feel the same way. And I said, but if you could choose another brother than Amos, would you do it? And he sat there for a minute, and I really didn't know what he was going to say. And he said, I've gotten used to him. And it's true, we've gotten used to him. But anyway, but I'd be lying if I told you it was easy. But I learned then that you could grieve something that wasn't death. And in the last 10 days in our community, we have had a lot of really hard things happen to a lot of people. And before I go on, I'll say that a friend of mine and I always say this: you can't tell me how I feel. So I would say to anybody, your feelings are valid and my feelings are valid. And if you feel a way, that's okay. And so don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't feel a certain way. There was somebody tonight that was they were sad that they were about to have their fourth girl. They wanted a boy. And they're like, I'm allowed to feel this way. And I thought, who cares about a boy? But you know what? I can't tell that person how to feel, right? That's not up to me. That's not my job. So in my community, over the last 10 days, it's been rough. And I have been grieving. And not at first, not death, though today there was a funeral. And it has been the strangest, I'm trying to think about it, a way to say that doesn't hurt somebody. So my neighbor, who I adored, was arrested for some terrible things 10 days ago. And I don't know if those things happen. That's not up to me. I'm not judge and jury. But there are terrible things. And so you have victims, and you have how people feel. And then you have this person who you really like. And what do you do with those feelings when they conflict with each other? And so it's really been a test of my faith. And that water sound is so annoying. And thinking about forgiveness and love and what's expected of me as a human, as a neighbor, as a person, as a friend. And I tell you what, it's been really, really hard. And I don't think there's probably a person where I live that doesn't feel like that. Now, some people feel very specifically. If you have done something terrible, you've been accused of something terrible, you're terrible. And, I think I used to sort of think like that. And now here's this person. And so my neighbor, who was charged with these crimes a week ago, took his own life Saturday morning. And now, there's this big hole of emptiness left, and there won't be a resolution on earth of the criminal charges. So you have people that, accusers that are unhappy and upset. And then you have this family who was really loving towards each other and loved each other so much and continue to, that they're grieving. And then you have these friends, people like me, that are trying to understand, what do I do with all these feelings? And, I talked to a few people about it, and people are really torn, both ways. And I guess what I keep saying is, I don't know the answers. I'm just learning that, like, how big love can be, and how God can love us. And so when, I don't know, it's just, it's been really hard. It's been really hard. And there are people, and I think it's kind of the elephant in the room. I think people aren't talking about it, and I think people need to talk about it. I mean, I was telling somebody about something Amos said that wasn't particularly kind at swim lessons, and they were like, well, that could have hurt the person's feelings. And I was like, you know what? I can't do anything about Amos, but I have to help people understand Amos. So if Amos compares somebody to a hippo or a African dancer, I mean, there's no reason to hide it. We need to just talk about it. And I think it's important that we talk about these things. And so today I went to a funeral. And when I tell you, so when I say that I, like somebody, I don't like a ton of people. I don't mean that like in a mean way, but I really don't. And my husband the other night, we went away for our anniversary this past weekend, and somebody was telling something, complaining about something, and he said, it's amazing where your mind can go when you don't have a child with autism. And I thought, he's right. So when you belong to an Amos, and not that everything comes around back to a child with autism, but when you belong to Amos, your perspective is different. And Amos is not always an easy person to love or to be your neighbor. And our neighbors have been nothing but kind and inclusive and loving to us. And we're not always easy to love. And so when they get piles of sand brought in for their sand pile, they always put a pile out for us. If Amos goes over there and threw probably 25 of their lights in the water, and they never even said anything, didn't even tell me. People don't do that. Like, and then we just bought this house across the street from us. It's really cute. And this family was looking at it too. And I thought, well, this family has more money than we have, so we're not going to get the house. And we were just talking about it casually about, I said, yeah, we would like to buy this house because, I don't know, maybe grandparents could live in it someday. We'll rent it. Maybe even Amos could live by himself someday. I mean, we're getting really lofty with ideas. And we bought the house, and a couple weeks later, about 2 weeks ago, I was talking to my friends, the neighbors, and she said, "Did you get the house?" And I said, "Yeah, we did. We're really excited. We're about to close on it." And she said, "We pulled out of the negotiations because we decided you needed it more than us." The world doesn't work like that very often. You know, it's like we want to pretend we're nice and easy, but are we? Do we give up things for our own gain, for the betterment of other people? That's the kind of neighbors I have. And so we're Amos, ending up in their house, or like, oh, we found Amos, or getting in there, trying to go get in their hot tub, or just there are people. I have another, not a close neighbor, but another neighbor. He sent us a cease and desist letter because Amos went in his yard. Now, if that neighbor gets arrested and something happens to him, am I gonna be torn up? No, because I'm a human. So that's the kind of kindness I'm talking about. So somebody said, when it depends on your perspective of how it affects you. So I think you're right. I think it does. But I think what I'm learning is that it shouldn't. And that if you're coming at this from a place of faith and you're saying, God's love never, never, ever, ever fails. As humans, we just have this need to, we want to understand everything. And today we went to this funeral, and the minister, Pastor Steve Mizell, it was probably the best funeral service I've ever heard. And the first thing he did, he stood up and he said something about, have you ever heard about this book called like Eat a Frog? And he said, I believe in getting the hard things done first so that things will get easier. And he said, I'm going to address the hard things first. And he said, which is why I feel brave enough to talk about it tonight. He said, this has been a really hard 10 days. And people, I know we all have a lot of questions. And he said, but I'm going to tell you what, I'm not qualified to answer them. So I'm not going to try. And that was really powerful because I think we tend to think we've got to be judge and jury and sideline judge. And trust me, I have been that person. I get it. But I have learned over the last 10 days that the world is way bigger than me. And that if something terrible happens to me or to my family or whatever else by someone else, who knows, it could be a drunk driver, it could be anything. I think I will look upon people accused of crimes a little bit differently than I have. I have been holding a real grudge towards a rapist and murderer who is about to go on trial for the rape and murder of Hania Aguilar, little girl whose mother I've gotten to know. Her name is Sally Hernandez, and they live in Lumberton, and his trial is getting ready to start. And I have really had no sympathy for him, nothing. Nothing. And so now these last 10 days I've thought, Adrienne, who are you? Have you forgiven? Have you, are you letting God be in charge? Or are you kind of issuing the decree of what's going to happen. It's like a cat fight in here. So anyway. So I'm not here to answer questions. I just am here to say that, and he said, you know, I know people are hurting. And for me, people could be a lot of people. And I think when you lose somebody or somebody takes their own life, everybody has a thought, you know, everybody has a thought of what that means or why or how or what if or what could, and we don't know. We don't know. Oh, Marie, I'm sorry. Lost your sister yesterday. But I think our takeaway is that God can bring good and beauty out of really hard things. And that humans, we make choices. And none of us are perfect. Not one of us. And I think we feel like there's some sort of measuring stick, like I'm better than you, or I did this and you did that, but I'm a little better, I'm a little more pious, I did this. And it's just not true. That's not how it works, you know? Hold tight to the ones you love. Oh, Sandra, you're just going to have to go back and start over. Anyway, it was a really nice service today. And my friend Mary Scott, we were talking about it tonight, and she said, I just have cried and cried and cried. And it's almost like you're saying, I'm crying. I'm just grieving what could have been, you know. This is a guy that I just love to see, and always had a smile and a welcome and time to talk. And I'm going to miss him, and I'm going to embrace his widow and his children who have been long friends. And what kind of person am I? You know, how do I make the world better? And I don't think sitting around shooting gossip or doing whatever helps a darn thing. Go out and do something nice, you know? Anyway, but we were talking, and we were thinking, like she said, you know, nothing can separate us from God's love. And that is it's just such a big statement. It's such a big statement. It was true. Anyway, I wish I had some, you know, magic potion or something to make everybody feel better or feel understood. And I don't. I know there are people tonight that are hurting in a way that I don't understand. And I would send more love to them than anybody else. And I guess it's realizing that I don't even know who those people are, because those people can be relatives, they can be strangers, they could be friends, and that people can hurt in so many different ways that we don't know. You know, I hurt like that losing this amazing brother I had, and I didn't tell people. You know, I ached with the loss of him, and I, you know, pretended I didn't. And I will say, to you, don't ever shake off the feelings you have. If you are angry, be angry. If you need to cry, cry. If you feel joy, feel joy. Nobody can tell you how to feel. And you need to feel all the frickin' feelings, because they will come back and bite you in the ass if you don't. And I can tell you that because I've done it. I know it firsthand. And it doesn't work. So anyway. Thank y'all for tuning in. Tomorrow is exciting. I have a haircut with Lori, and that will be a subscriber video, which will be a horse of a different color because it's very entertaining. And I'm supposed to go and get some Botox or something tomorrow, and I'm not feeling like I want to do that because I'm worried I'm going to look like Botox Barbie. So anyway, that's tomorrow. But have a good night's sleep. And lots of love to people out there hurting tonight.